Hey guys, welcome back. It seems like a big balance update patch has come out on March 13th, and this may mean the meta may shift towards a different path. So let's take a look at what we have here. GDI, Jump Jet Troopers, a tune down on Harvester aggression without affecting combat effectiveness. Damage to Harvesters decreased by 50 damage. So that's definitely going to make a difference in how fast jump jets can kill harvesters, which means if your opponent does a harvester rush on you with jump jets, it'll take a longer time to kill your harvester, which means you have more time to defend against it. This will not necessarily stop any jump jet aggression on harvesters, however, so definitely still watch out for that. I don't think this was a huge change, but it certainly will allow your harvesters to survive a little bit longer. Kodiak. The Kodiak was proving to take a bit too long to kill even with a hard counter. Health decreased to 3,465. It was at 4,000. So the health definitely got a nice big reduction. And I think the Kodiak did have maybe a little bit too much health. Although we'll see now what happens. I think that was a good balancing patch for the Kodiak. Dr. Liang. Liang's drone cost reduced to help it combo efficiently with other units. Cost decreased to 40, was at 60. That's a big buff to Dr. Liang, and actually this is something I talked about once in one of my streams. I think Dr. Liang did kind of need a cost decrease on his drone. I was thinking maybe at about 50 crystals. I wonder how it's going to be now at 40 crystals, because of course you can use Dr. Liang's hero power more effectively as well. You can spam it a little bit more. So maybe Dr. Liang will be a thing now. Lieutenant Strongarm. Offered too much value as a scout on top of strong combat abilities. Turret vision reduced to 1, was at 2. Now I haven't used Strongarm a lot recently. As you guys know, Jackson and Oksana are the dominant commanders. So I really didn't use Strongarm too much. But I guess maybe her turret did give too much vision. I'm not really too sure if this was necessary. But anyways, it looks like Lieutenant Strongarm did get a nerf. MG Squad. This should help MG Squads get in position earlier. Speed increased to average, was at slow. This is very nice for the MG Squad to have, because whenever you try to do an MG Squad tactic, or if you ever try to build this unit early and get it onto the launch pads, the MG Squad took a very long time to set up. So if your opponent had quick scouting units like the Riflemen would easily kill the MG Squad as it was setting up. And I think this is a nice buff, but I am a little bit concerned maybe MG Squad rush meta might be a thing, and we do know how strong this unit is once it's set up. So we'll see what happens with the current, from now on to the future. But anyways, let's take a look at the next one. The MLRS, more counterplay for vehicles against the MLRS. Reload time was increased to 6.5, so a 1.5 second increase on its reload time, and the cost was increased to 80 crystals. And I think the MLRS was a little bit too strong against any vehicle units and even harvesters as well. So definitely having this kind of nerf on the MLRS, I think, was a good choice. I think the Giga Cannon also costed around 80 crystals, right? So the MLRS was actually more cost efficient than the equivalent Nod unit, the Giga Cannon, and the MLRS I think was a tad bit stronger than the Giga Cannon, because it could kill vehicle units instantly without the vehicle units being able to answer to it properly, unless of course you did get into close range to the MLRS. There were ways to kill it by using tanks and then boosting it up with Jackson or something like that. Then you could easily take out the MLRS. But other than those kind of tactics, if your opponent had too many of these units on the battlefield, and if you had more factory units, it was very hard to deal with this unit. The game was pretty much over in those kind of situations. So I think this type of nerf on the MLRS was certainly needed, and I'm glad to see that the Giga Cannon may have a better chance against this unit now. The Mohawk Gunship. This will normalize training differences between Mohawks and attack bikes. Damage decreased to 396, was at 410. Now, the Mohawk Gunship would beat an attack bike 1 versus 1 on a 1 versus 1 fight. But it seems like the Mohawk Gunship got a damage reduction. I'm not sure if this was necessary, because now we also have, of course, the Orca Bomber and the Orca, and those two are also very, you know, similar type. They all do a similar job in killing vehicle units. They're all very excellent at it. And I'm not sure if the Mohawk gunship needed a damage reduction. And I'm not sure how this is supposed to normalize training differences between the Mohawks and the attack bikes. I'm not sure how this normalizes anything. And I'm not sure if this means attack bikes can now beat Mohawk gunships 1 versus 1. I still don't think they would. But I don't know if this... I don't really agree with this nerf on the Mohawk gunship. I don't think the Mohawk gunship needed a nerf, to be honest. I think it was okay at where it was at. Okay, the Orca. Survivability buff. Health increased to 1210, was at 909. So it got a whopping 300 extra base health. That's definitely going to allow the Orca to survive a bit longer. I have to tell you guys, though, the Orca is a very annoying unit to deal with if you bring in a War Factory army. As Orcas can kill most War Factory builds. And you know, things like the Pitbull, if you're not out leveling your enemy's Orcas, would die in one shot, and Pitbulls were kind of like your main unit to counter the Orca or attack bikes. So the Orca getting a health buff, it's nice to see that. I'm not sure if it was necessary, because I think the Orca was fine at where it was after the buff, where it gave the Orca, you know, 4 rockets to fire. That was already an incredibly great buff for this unit, getting 2 extra rockets to fire. But getting some extra health like this may mean like this could mean the end of the War Factory meta. As you guys can see, there's a whole bunch of War Factory units right down here getting nerfed. The Pitbull health decreased to 1745, so not a huge decrease on its health from 1800. And the Predator tanks have dominated the meta in the last few months. This should promote a bit more diversity. Cost increase to 70, was at 60. The tank got a price increase. The Rhino, now that the War Factory has scouting units, the Rhino does not need extra vision, so the Rhino's vision was cut down to 2 from 3. And I don't see... Okay, the Nod is down here. Okay, I was gonna try to see if there was the Scorpion tank as well, but you can see a whole bunch of War Factory units got nerfed as well, and the Orca got a health buff. That really, I don't think is necessary. We really are going to see maybe the end of War Factory units dominating the battlefield, which is great because now we can kind of see more variation. Certainly, I think the War Factory units have still been very strong, but okay, I would say the tank getting increased cost to 70, I would say that's fair, but the Rhino getting like a reduced vision to 2, that doesn't make any sense to me. The Rhino, honestly, I don't even think is that much of a good unit. The Rhino is only good if you out-level your opponents. The Rhino is honestly not that great at all. Even if your Rhino is at the same level as your opponent's units, it just doesn't do enough damage. The Rhino is like a tanky Nod buggy, where it will tank a lot of hits, but doesn't do enough damage over time. That's my biggest problem with the Rhino. And it costs 30 crystals, which is not cheap. 30 crystals to build a Rhino, that's not that cheap, to be honest. And you know, the Rhino having that 3-tile vision was a great thing to have, but just because, you know, you got the War Dogs that have the 3-tile vision, they cut the Rhino's vision down to 2, which I think was unnecessary. I think the Rhino was fine with where it was at. I almost never use this unit because my Rhino's level is not that high. Like I said, I think the Rhino is pretty bad. It's not a good unit to use. It's a waste of 30 crystals to build. You could build another unit that does its job better. So I really don't think this nerf was necessary on the Rhino. At least the Rhino had another, you know, job where it could actually scout for you in the early game, but now it can't even scout anymore. So you might as well just use the War Dogs. The Rhino, I feel like, is dead. Okay, well, anyways, the next one here, Sandstorm. Survivability boost for the Sandstorm. Health increase to 4,330 from 3,600. So it got a base health increase by 700 hit points. And I'm not sure how this is going to affect the unit. I think the Sandstorm was good at where it was at. It already had a ton of health, to be honest. And it's like a very balanced unit that can deal with War Factory and air units very well. And seeing that a whole bunch of air units are getting buffed and War Factory units seems like they're getting nerfed a lot. We're definitely going to see more air units coming out in many of our games in the future, and the Sandstorm will definitely provide a more vital role compared to units like the Titan. I feel like the Titan is pretty much going to die out because the Titans can only attack ground units, of course. But anyways, Sniper Team. This will give Sniper Team a similar attack sequence to attack bikes. Time between attacks reduced to 0.1 seconds was at 1 second. So it seems like the Sniper Team has gotten a buff. In a way, it seems like they'll be attacking slightly faster. That's really what it means. So I guess that's nice. Nice for the Sniper Team. The Talent fixes to training differences as well as buff when talents are mispositioned. Damage increased to 57 was at 55. So it got a little bit of an increase in its damage. And the turn rate was increased to 450 was at 150. So the talents were turning a little bit too slow. And I kind of agree with that. There are a lot of situations where the talent is like trying to rotate and then it just dies because it doesn't turn fast enough. And it's got a small damage increase, which is nice to see. So I mean, it's good to see the talent got a buff. I think the talent did need a bit of a buff. Now, when it comes to the drones, as you guys know, the drones are now at 20 crystals. And I think they need to reduce that back to 10. Because the drones, honestly, I don't think they need to cost that much. And it would be nice if the drones actually got like a 3-tile vision range. Then that would allow people to go into helipad opening. But once again, maybe the drones will become a little bit too strong if they did increase those kind of things or gave those kind of buffs. But I was kind of expecting to see the drones getting a reduction in cost of 10 crystals again, because I think it's too expensive for it to cost 20 crystals. But it seems like that's all the fix there is. And let's take a look at the nod now. Avatar has given players a bit too much bang for its buck. This change should bring it in line. So the Avatar's health was massively reduced by 700 points. No damage reduction, just the health was reduced. This was a fair nerf because Avatar is definitely one of the strongest units in the game, and once you get like one of those guys out and you don't have air units to counter it, you are screwed, man. The Avatar is very, very strong. The Banshee. This will normalize training differences between Banshee's attack bikes. Damage to vehicles decreased to 396. Okay, so the damage to vehicles were slightly decreased once again to normalize against attack bike. I'm not really sure what they mean by the normalizing thing, but I guess this is a fair nerf on Banshees because Banshees are very versatile, sometimes maybe a little bit too strong. The Buggy. Same as Rhino, vision reduced to 2. Once again, I don't know why the Buggy and the Rhino needed a vision reduction. Because I think they were fine with where they're at. Plus, they cost 30 crystals. 30 crystals is not the cheapest unit in the game. It's, you know, it's an okay-ish price. The Chemical Buggy. This is to combat training differences. HP reduction to 1550. And the Chemical Buggy, some players are complaining that it's too strong because I feel like the Buggy is it's a very strong unit and will pretty much wreck every single infantry unit type in the game. And it did get a health reduction here, so you know it's going to die faster now to your opponent's units, and this may give more of a chance to missile squads, laser squads, and whatnot to counter the Buggy if you didn't have the right units to counter it. And the Chemical Warriors. This is to combat training influencing matchup between Chemical Warriors and Flame or Shock Troopers. HP increased to 620, was at 600. I think the Chemical Warriors already had a higher health than the Flame and the Shock Troopers. Plus, they already do more damage, so I guess they just increased the Chemical Warriors' health again. And I can't recall Chemical Warriors ever losing a fight to Flames and Shock Troopers unless your level was lower than the Flames and the Shocks. But okay, looks like the Chemical Warriors got a buff, which is fair. Inferno. Inferno has been a bit too easy to build. The cost will punish those who overbuild. Cost increased to 110. I've always thought the Inferno Bomber was really not like super overpowered, but somewhat overpowered. I think yeah, once your opponent gets like 1 or 2 of these guys out and you don't have the right units to counter it right away, the Inferno will smash all ground units on the ground. And if you have super high level Infernos, they'll kill everything in like one shot. So it was stupid. I think the Inferno Bomber definitely was a little bit too strong. The Rockworm, this was an intentional change that is being reverted with this patch. Base damage reduced to 500 was 2000. Whoa, okay. The Rockworm had a base damage of 2000? Okay, that must have been an error. Scorpion tank, same as Predator tank, cost increased to 70, was 60, so same thing, tank's got an increase on its cost. The stealth tank, players were simply resupplying their unit faster, then the stealth tank could deal with it. This should bring the stealth tank closer to the GDI counterparts. Reload time decreased to 10 from 12. So a stealth tank now can attack or reload faster. And I'm not sure how I feel about this. I feel like the stealth tank was at a right position. With air units becoming stronger now, and if you don't have infantry units, first of all, you can't detect the stealth tank. So the stealth tank will attack the enemy unit first because your units can't detect it if you don't have infantry units. And I've ran into a lot of players recently where the stealth tank will kill some of my vehicle or air units before they can answer it back, because the stealth tanks, like the MLRS, fires extremely fast, and because they're stealth, I can't detect them, so they'll attack my units, kill it before my units can even answer, and then they'll just run away and then get the invisibility cloak on and then come back and kill another air unit or two. I think the stealth tank wasn't a good position, and I think it was coming back to its strength, because now we're seeing more air units, of course, and a stealth tank is pretty good against dealing with air units. They can kill a lot of air units in one shot, in one volley. So now the stealth tank getting a buff like this, that means it can attack more frequently. So this is not a huge buff on the stealth tank, but this may make a difference on how good it will be now. But anyways, there is no other mention of other commanders. I was kind of hoping maybe they would make some changes to the cost of the other commanders' hero powers. I feel like maybe they need a slight reduction or on their hero power, or somewhat of a change. Like for example, Solomon, Jade, and Kane, they have very strong hero powers, and I understand that if we buff their hero powers a little bit too much, or if we make their hero power cost a little bit too cheap, then they can spam their crazy iron cannons and towers more frequently, and that can seem like it's overpowered. But I feel like the cost to their hero powers are a little bit too expensive right now, and that's why you still don't see a lot of them being played. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what else I wanted to say. I like the change to Dr. Liang for sure, because Liang was definitely the worst commander for a very long time. But now we'll see if Liang can actually make a difference with this cost decrease. But aside from that, it seems like the War Factory units took a heavy hit, especially War Factory builds centering around the tanks getting an increase in its cost. That's definitely gonna hurt for sure. And we're gonna have to exactly see what's going to happen in the meta. Maybe the War Factory meta will completely die off with these nerfs. But let me know what you guys think about this most recent patch in the comment below. There are some things I like about this patch. There's certainly some things I'm not really too fond of for sure, but I feel like most of it was done well, and we may have to readjust our playing style from War Factory units to air units or something like that. But anyways, thanks for watching this video, guys, as always, and I'll see you guys next time.